This is Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined again by Judy Chu. She is a member of the United States Congress. Thank you so much for joining us again. I want to speak with you about immigration and immigration reform. I think it's fair to say, as a result of the election in 2012, the whole nature of the debate surrounding immigration reform changed. It pushed the issue to the top of the agenda. Is that a fair assessment, ma'am?
I think it is a very fair assessment. 71% of Latinos voted for President Obama. 73% of Asian Americans voted for President Obama.
And I want to stop you there, because that to me is one of the most startling figures. I remember in the 90s, the Asian American vote was rock solid Republican. The Latino vote has been trending Democratic for quite some time. How did the Asian American vote swing so wildly to the Democratic Party?
I think that the immigration reform debate really influenced it. That was one of several issues that influenced Asian Americans to vote overwhelmingly for President Obama. And that strong vote is what propelled Republicans to say, hey, we have to do something about this.
But are they? I mean, in your mind, you're in Washington, you're on the Judiciary Committee. You work with Republicans, you have for years. You've been in the majority, you've been in the minority.
Yes.
So do you see a genuine desire by Republican members, let's say from states without large immigrant populations, to look at the immigration debate and try to come to solutions?
I am very hopeful. More hopeful than I've been in the past years. And the reason is because there is a bipartisan group of 8 senators who have come together to put together a bill. And we also have a bipartisan group of House members that are doing the same. They are talking across parties, and the leadership of both parties know full well that this is going on. In fact, Boehner has said that Speaker John Boehner has said that immigration reform must be done.
You mentioned the 8 senators, and you may have heard that recently those 8 senators went to the border between the United States and Mexico, and before their very eyes, they witnessed a woman trying to jump the border fence and watch the apprehension. That must have been very powerful to see that on so many different levels. You've been to the border.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about going to the border? Because yeah, we've driven through Tijuana, but that's not the same.
No,
it's not like what you've seen.
Yeah. I was able to see the full extent of border security. I traveled along the quite a length of the fence, and also even went across the sea where the Coast Guard is patrolling. Yes. So we watched the tunnels, and the very, very interesting thing is that net migration is 0. The fences are very, very secure, so it is actually pretty tough to go across them. But also, they built so many jails to hold all these people who are attempting to cross it, and these jails are empty because net migration has decreased so dramatically from Mexico.
And I want to talk to you about border security, because under the plan of the Gang of 8 as we know it, border security is really a key element. And as I understand it, and look, the bill's changing, but in some permutations of the bill, there's a commission that would need to verify that the border is secure before there would be comprehensive reform. Where are we on that? Because I hear the word commission and my eyes start to glaze over, if I may say. Yeah, I know, but be that as it may, what's your sense of this desire for a commission to verify border security?
Well,
oh my.
it's what the Republicans want, but in my opinion, the border is very secure. In fact, many people do not know that we spend more on border security than we do on all the other federal law agencies combined.
Really?
Yes. There is more money that is put right there than for the FBI, for ATF, for Secret Service, for all of it combined. So there is already much going over there. And well, if this is what the Republicans need in order to feel some comfort, then okay.
At the same time, there's a question about what we will do with the undocumented currently living in the country. Will we provide them a path to citizenship, or will we simply legalize their status, allow them to stay in the country, allow them to work, but there would be no option to become American citizens.
It is so important to provide a pathway to citizenship. You know, establish whatever criteria it is, paying a fee, learning English, learning the citizenship rules, working. But it is important to have the ultimate goal of citizenship. Otherwise, you establish a permanent second-class citizenship.
Is that true, though? I mean, if you have a green card, sure, you can't vote. We know that. But I don't know. I'm just pushing you a bit, if I may. Does it really matter?
Yes, and I know actually about it quite a bit because there were two instances where there was second-class citizenship established by Congress. One was slavery, and the other was the Chinese Exclusion Act.
And your family, I believe?
Right, we were victims of that.
Were you interned, or you're not old enough?
Well, it's not internment, but denied.
Right.
Basically, the whole community was denied the ability.
Because it was the Japanese that were interred, and the
yeah,
Chinese,
that's right. Yeah.
But the Chinese, of course, had tremendous. I mean, you think about the railroad situation. We've talked about this before. And didn't you recently have a resolution passed?
I got an apology for the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was passed by Congress to deny Chinese Americans the right to become naturalized citizens so that they could not vote, and that lasted for 60 long years.
It's remarkable on so many levels. So, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, what can you tell us about the immigration reform debate? Are we truly making progress? Because another top agenda item appeared to be gun control.
Yes.
That seems to be struggling a bit.
I think that both are proceeding on a parallel level.
Is that good? I mean, that makes one could argue that makes one nervous because gun control seems to be having struggles, and immigration reform, same struggles? I
don't believe so. The debate is going on. I believe that a bill will be released both on the Senate side and the House side, and I think that there'll be plenty of discussion about that, and that it's really got to be out before the end of this year.
I want to talk to you about the sequester. The sequester is in force as we speak.
Yes.
I know you represent significant portions of the San Gabriel Valley. Burbank Airport?
Not the Burbank
Airport. But Burbank,
yes.
Glendale, Pasadena. You do have Pasadena.
I do.
And so, you know, there's nervousness about airline safety. As an example, I've been to various airports. The airport lines are long. Towers apparently are coming down.
Yes.
What's your sense of the sequester?
People aren't feeling an immediate big impact, but they will feel the impact. We will have fewer air traffic controllers and security personnel. We will have fewer meat inspectors. I just heard that there were 1,000 children released from Head Start and that they're actually doing lotteries to determine which children will be in Head Start in Indiana.
What about, for example, border security? I
well,
mean,
exactly.
Are they going to be impacted as well? The
Yes.
Port of Long Beach and Los Angeles. You know, at a certain level, you know, it does feel as if it's out there, that we hear that maybe smaller airports won't have air traffic controllers. We hear that maybe in Indiana. I mean, will there be pain?
There will be pain in the long run, and in the short run too. Meals on Wheels for the elderly. In schools, well, Pasadena alone will lose $2 million, and my district as a whole will lose $9 million from education.
Do you believe that in the end there will be this grand bargain that will subsume the debt ceiling debate, the sequester debate, and debt reduction generally?
It is my hope. In a few months, the debt ceiling debate will come up, and it is my hope that we will have a grand bargain.
Okay, her name is Judy Chu. She is a member of the United States Congress. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Shelley Morrison of Will and Grace fame and her husband, Walter Dominguez. They did a fascinating documentary about immigration. You'll want to listen to that interview. I'm Brad Pomerance. This is Charter California Edition.
What region of California has the highest concentration of undocumented immigrants? The Central Coast has the highest concentration of undocumented immigrants at over 9%.
Welcome back to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I am so glad to introduce you. I'm sure you know her already. Her name is Shelley Morrison. She played Rosario on Will and Grace. She brings her husband with her. His name is Walter Dominguez, and they have entered on a journey together that is so incredibly compelling. You know, I love genealogy, I love genetics, and Walter and Shelley decided to take a journey together about Walter's grandfather. The documentary is called Weaving the Past, Journey of Discovery. I cannot wait to see it. Walter, what caused you to take this journey?
My grandfather had such a remarkable influence on my life and the lives of many people. But because he had been so good to me as a kid, taken so much time, even though he was a very busy man as a Methodist minister, he was always going here and there, tending to people and their problems, and but I would go with him. And he was a wonderful person, and when he died, it left an enormous hole, and I didn't realize how big that hole was until as years go by and you get older, you reach a certain point.
And Shelley, his story in a lot of ways is the quintessential immigrant story that we hear so often coming from Mexico. And this is a man who you knew, correct?
I never met him.
You hadn't met him?
No,
okay.
Walter and I had met just a couple of months before he died.
Right.
Doing a film, and he was the assistant director, I was in the film. And I was just so looking forward to meeting Don Emilio. And he got sick and died before I had a chance to meet him. And I never knew my grandparents. I never knew any of my grandparents.
And you also have your own immigrant story, your
Yes.
family coming from Turkey.
From Turkey.
I have mine, my family coming from Poland and Hungary. And that's why I am so appreciative that you have taken this story and brought it to us, because it really is a metaphor.
It's a metaphor, but it's also, there is so much about history that we're not told. And so in Walter trying to find out about his grandfather, because this great man, he was so surprised the things he was finding out.
And
he was finding out that his grandfather was part of a very, very, very powerful and strong border Mexican revolutionary movement with journalists and writers and Praxedis and Sarabia and all these. And the people who are seeing this film saying, why were we not taught this in school? Right. But at the same time, it's the story of his journey to find out about his roots. And so there's this incredible, mysterious story, but history being told. So it's reaching everybody. It's reaching young people, old people. They want to see it again.
Why is it that people like you and me and Shelley as well have this yearning desire to know more about those that preceded us? What is it?
I think it is a very, very universal human need to make ourselves whole by reconnecting with our ancestors. And the only way we can do that is by learning about them, and sometimes, as in your case and mine, actually going to where they came from and walking the ground that they walked.
I went to Poland, I had mentioned to you, to my grandmother's village. I have a question for both of you. Someone asked me this, I thought it was brilliant. If you could meet your great-great-grandfather or great-great-grandchild, who would you meet? Or great-great-grandmother, whatever it is, who would you meet?
I think it would be my great-great-grandmother.
Same. A lot of people would say they'd want to meet their descendants. I want to meet my ancestors. What about you, Shelley?
Whoever's the better cook.
And I hear you make great chicken.
I do.
I hear.
I do.
But that's part of this. Tell me more about the journey. Shelley gave us a bit of the punchline. A Methodist minister who in his prior life had been a revolutionary.
Which was, we didn't know this. The family really didn't know any of the details of this, and we didn't realize how involved he was at the level of the people that he was involved with. Conditions in Mexico when he was a child, when he was a youth growing up, were extremely difficult. By 1910, people were poorer in Mexico than they had been 100 years before. And they had had a dictator ruling the country and for over 30 years. And it really was just created conditions that were extremely difficult.
Which are happening today.
Right, and that's what makes this so compelling.
Exactly. It's why do you go back? It's so history isn't constantly repeated, so we learn something from it. So we're able to really be for the people, for all people.
And we think about what's happening in Mexico, where, I mean, I recently saw a picture of 7 individuals on chairs that had been slaughtered. I think you may have seen that as well, Shelley. I mean, it is just devastating. And we're, kind of in the midst of this kind of immigration reform struggle. And like you said, what happened to Emilio Hernandez, not to, but his journey informs us today.
But I don't want people to think that this is a downer, because
it's not. No, I agree.
I'll give you an example. A lot of people go to see documentaries, and it may be that the polar bears are being extinct,
of course,
and they're starving in Africa. There's so many things, and you come out feeling overwhelmed by this, and you don't know what to do. The people that have been coming to see this film, they come out energized. They come out, they want to find out about their roots.
Right.
They want to see how they fit into this panorama. So, and this is not only older people, this younger people, teenagers. So we're very proud of this film. We put our own money into this film because we wanted to do this the way we wanted to do it.
Right.
And it makes us happy the way the film turns out.
I have to ask you, you were at some level an observer on the journey.
Oh yes.
Because
I was working on Will and Grace.
Clearly.
Hello.
A little busy.
A little
Top
busy.
show.
How do you think that we got the money to pay for the movie?
But more importantly, though, it's not your story per se, and I'm not saying that pejoratively. So how was it for you as the spouse to watch Walter on this path? I'm literally tearing up thinking about it.
He's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Shut your ears. He is, we're married almost 40 years. I'm 11 years older than he
really?
is. So
You look
whatever,
good.
Age doesn't mean anything.
We've evened out, though.
I was going to say, right, yeah, it evened out, right.
I've aged him. He's kept me young.
Exactly.
It was important for me for this film, and the way you get audiences to go with you is if they're for you, if you capture them. His essence was very important to be in the film because people open up to him. He's kind, he's gentle, he's a keeper. Animals, children, everyone gravitates. So that was, and I came in the later stages mainly to be bad cop.
Okay, right.
Because he had 400 hours of footage.
I've been there.
So bad cop went, and I know structure.
You're right.
And I would give him my notes, but he is the one who put the final piece together. And it's my cousin who's 81. He's my last blood relative, full blood relative left. He lives in Sylmar, and he's on oxygen 24/7. So I sent him all kinds of things, and I sent him our film. And he said something so interesting. He loves it. It's difficult for him to read subtitles, and that kept him away from a lot of wonderful movies because it was very difficult to read.
Sure.
He says, I don't know what you did, but the way you with yellow letters against a black background and the action in back is not moving. He said, it's wonderful. I could follow it. He said, you really got something there besides the movie. People can see, and it's not all subtitles.
It's
but there
bilingual. I mean, it's in 2 languages.
I cannot wait to see it. If you want to learn more about the film, the website is weavingthepast.com. Thank you on so many levels. Thank you. Her name is Shelley Morrison. His name is Walter Dominguez. They are the producers of Weaving the Past, Journey of Discovery. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Charter California Edition.
What event caused Mexican immigration to the United States to rise in the early 20th century? The opening of Ellis Island, the curtailment of Japanese immigration, the end of World War I, or the Roaring '20s?
Welcome to Charter California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Ester Hernandez. She is a professor at Cal State Los Angeles. She specializes in social studies and the question of immigration and immigration reform. And you look at the struggle of the undocumented.
That's right.
Why don't you talk to us most generally about that struggle? Even the word undocumented is struggling for some. So talk to us about it.
I just finished teaching a course to about 30 students at Cal State LA, and we talked about the struggles of the undocumented, which have to do with employment, have to do with legal status and the increasing enforcement that is going on.
Right.
And so a lot of the topics that we talked about is those difficulties of talking about the issue, and you mentioned the issue of the using undocumented.
Right.
We had a conversation in our class about the fact that most of the time in the media the term illegal immigrant is used, and
it's interesting you mentioned that. I was having a conversation with an elected official, and this elected official was using the term illegal, an illegal alien, and I was using the term undocumented. And then he started saying, well, why are you saying undocumented? They are documented. They have documents from their home country. And again, I don't want to get involved in the debate because I'm just kind of the vessel for the conversation. I'm a neutral journalist. And I said, candidly for me, I was just uncomfortable calling a human being illegal. It was a very difficult one for me. And it kind of, you know, stopped him in his tracks a bit, because if you really do think about it, the word illegal, there's a lot of connotations behind that a person is illegal.
Yes.
Is that what you're hearing?
So a lot of the things that we deconstructed in our class was this issue of illegality and you know, the enforcement and the association of the term with criminality. And what we emphasized, the issues are that people have a right to work, that they have, you know, that they are human beings, that they have certain rights that are human rights, and that one of them is to not be called illegal because it dehumanizes them.
Do you know the history of how the term actually entered our vernacular? Because alien, even that word at some level is derogatory, one could argue, but if you really think about it, it simply means foreign. I mean, it's not. It does not as intentionally derogatory. How did the word illegal enter the vernacular? Do you know?
Well, in the 1920s, there were a lot of policies that were passed, and so the term alien and illegal alien became tied together.
That's interesting.
So, but you know, one of the things that we emphasized in the course is that immigration issues or immigration violations are not criminal offenses, right? And they're administrative, and so we go into all of these kinds of issues of definition.
That is interesting. I bet you most people don't realize that. It's an administrative offense. It's not a criminal offense, as you describe.
I think that a lot of what we've seen since 1986 with immigration policies passed in 1996, there's been more of an emphasis on enforcement and sort of trying to push that connotation of alien and undocumented as something illegal. And you know, that's something that we talk about definitely, and we emphasize this whole issue of this in the last instance involves human beings, and so, you know, just even the language that we use is really important.
In the wake of the 2012 presidential election, I think it's fair to say that the entire nation has taken a breath and really decided we need to think about how we are dealing with those individuals that are not in this country with papers, let's say. I really do feel as if this is a moment in time that historians will investigate and evaluate. Do you agree with me that we really are at a pivotal moment as it relates to the question of immigration policy?
I think we hope that definitely there's going to be comprehensive immigration reform. The exit polls have said that, you know, over 65% of people polled at the exit polls, right, said that they favor immigration reform. They favor a path to citizenship for people who are here undocumented.
And that is a tremendous shift. I mean, we're seeing so many shifts in terms of the views of Americans on a whole host of issues, from immigration reform to same-sex marriage. It is quite remarkable. I mean, I just look as kind of a student of history and think the times are changing. I mean, we really are seeing dramatic shifts, or are we?
I think there's always this ebb and flow of immigration enforcement, and tied to the enforcement, a lot of negative depictions of immigrants. And so I think that we see that, but I think at this moment the American public, as far as we know from poll after poll, they are saying we would like this issue to be addressed, and what they're saying is that they want to consider that comprehensive immigration reform. And I think that that's really important.
I want to talk about what we know as dreamers. It's a term that's used for children that were brought to this country before they hit majority. They don't have papers. Just as an anecdote, I was an attorney many years ago, and there was an intern in our office. She didn't even know she wasn't born in this country. We wanted to hire her, and we couldn't because she didn't have papers. She didn't even know it. Talk to us about the DREAM Act as implemented by the Obama administration, which gives these children, they could be adults now, the ability to be legal and work.
The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals is a program that is for children who arrive before they were 16 years old and have not turned, they're not over 30.
Right.
So there's all these deadlines that they have to meet, and it's an important program because they're going to be able to get a job, and they're going to have a relief from deportation at least as long as the program lasts.
So, as you study the undocumented, how has deferred action changed the families that have been impacted by their lack of documentation? I mean, I have to think it's a sea change.
Yes, it's a recent program. So basically, the number of people that are now receiving the deferred action is increasing, but it's under 100,000 at this moment.
Which is surprising. I would have thought it would be more.
So there's a lot of people who are eligible for it, but there's all these issues of having the documentation to be able to get it, and then waiting for the government to decide.
Let's kind of bring it to the human level. I mean, how is it affecting families?
I think it's really important because the young people are going to be able to get a job. They're going to be able to go forward with their dreams. They're not going to be on hold. So in a lot of ways, it helps the family by having this family member who will be able to exercise their employment capabilities, and perhaps even alleviate some of the burden on the family.
Yeah, but what about the economic aspect of this? Is it alleviating the stress? Are we seeing increased earnings for those that are able to apply for deferred action and therefore impact their entire family unit?
Well, we know that's something that we're going to see in the next few years, but we know that people who naturalize tend to earn more money than people who are not naturalized. So we know that legal status and naturalization has an effect on the economic well-being of the families. So we expect that it's going to be a positive effect.
So often when we think about immigration, we're focused on Central and South America. But is it true that this really is not just about our neighbors to the south?
One of the things that we did in my class was to look at the issue of the undocumented and look at it worldwide, and sort of to step back and sort of see, like, why is this issue occurring and who is it affecting? And we even looked at Europe, and we looked at the issues of different nationalities who are affected by that. There's only 40% of people who are undocumented are from other countries other than Central and South America. So the issue is broader than our neighbors.
Right, and it's so important that we realize that, because it is an important issue. If you had to guess, Professor, do you think we see immigration reform in this Congress?
We certainly see a lot of positive move towards the comprehensive immigration reform. Certainly everybody who advocates for the rights of immigrants and for the economic well-being of our state, which has one of the largest populations of undocumented, would like to see some form of comprehensive immigration reform, and it's important that it includes a path to citizenship.
Okay, her name is Ester Hernandez, professor at Cal State Los Angeles. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Charter California Edition.